Welcome in the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter. And I'm joined, as always, by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Vols on Twitter. What are you up to, you big undefeated Tennessee homer?
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Well, I'm going to keep saying that, Shane, until it's not true anymore. How you doing over there being 7-0 on the season?
Well, you know, it's good. It just feels like nobody's ever in your way anymore on your way to work. The lanes just kind of clear up. Haven't seen rain in 8 weeks, you know, so it's just been nice. It's almost like the Truman Show. You know? But no, it's been great. It's been a great run for my Tennessee Vols. You keep, you know, I'm not as worried, but brother, this is a game that's near and dear to my heart, and I know we're gonna touch on it here later, but we got the Bourbon bet shit talking already started. I love it. It's online. I see you boys up there cross enemy lines. So when we get closer to the end of the week, we'll have the details ready. And a lot of people are curious. They keep asking, what is this Bourbon bet, you know? Mm-hmm. Well, many years ago, obviously, if you're Tennessee, if you follow Tennessee or Kentucky at all, they play for an annual award or a trophy called the Beer Barrel, and that thing got took away for I think for good reasons at the time, but you know, I think the passing back and forth this Beer Barrel. So whoever wins between these teams, you know, they'd mark the year, the scores, and then of course, you know, they keep this big old beer barrel there at their facilities for a year. Well, it's gone away, and so we got to talking. Hey, why don't we start a bet? And we put it out there publicly that if Tennessee were to win the game, anybody that wants to go can make the bet. We'd send them Tennessee whiskey if we lost. They'd send us Kentucky bourbon if they lost. So I had a couple of folks. You know, the first year I think we had 3 takers. One of them fell off, so now I'm down to 2. Near and dear, good friends of mine now. But every year, that's what we're doing. Is we call it the Bourbon bet. So I'm excited.
Have you had any takers this year, Shane, or is the entire Big Blue Nation scared to death to bet against the Vols?
Not officially, but I know 2. I know our boys up there. There's a couple up there. I know they're good for it. They've already poked the bear online, so they're awake. They know it exists. You know, they're probably not as eager as they have been in years past, but no, I've got 2 bets so far. So I'm hoping to have. So this is coming out Wednesday. Hopefully by the end of today, I'll have some more details. But yeah, we'll be closing that down here, and hopefully I'll be getting me a couple more bottles of that Kentucky bourbon, man.
Yeah, and we got to remind our buddy Nick Roush. He made the bet with you live at SEC Media Days.
That's right. Where you at, Nick?
He probably forgot all about that. Let's give him a shout out. I believe him and his wife just had a baby. So
congratulations.
I don't know how much free time he's got on his hands, but if he's got any, which he probably doesn't with the new baby, I would try to get him back on the show, Shane, just to remind him of that bourbon bet there leading up to this game. But again, no promises because his wife just had a baby. So, you know, be on the lookout for that. But hey, we got some.
You saw what I did there at Media Days. I pumped him up. He got excited. Yeah, I'll get in on that bourbon bet. I knew what we were dealing with down here. No, I'm just kidding. I'm excited for him. Congratulations. And no, he has not reached out yet, but hopefully by the end of today, I'll hear something.
Yeah. Well, we got some other games to get to, Shane. So let's dive right into it. One of our favorite games annually in the SEC. And of course, I'm talking the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, Shane. We don't talk enough about the #1 team in the nation. Well, let's talk about them. Well, we got to talk something a little bad real quick here, Shane. Safety, Dan Jackson, out for the season. Safety. Now, he started the opener against Oregon. He was replaced by the outstanding true freshman, Malachi Stark. So this is not going to cripple Georgia by any means, but he did have 16 tackles on the season, an interception, and a forced fumble. So, you know, losing a guy, you always hate to see that. particularly going into this stretch run for the Georgia Bulldogs. But, man, this is where we're going to find out what Georgia's all about, Shane. I mean,
Yep.
early in the season, looked like the best team in the country. Maybe they still are. They're, maybe in the middle. They kind of tailed off a little, but really, when you say tailed off, we're just tailing off from kicking everybody in the teeth and smashing them and just beating them into a bloody pulp here. Still the top-ranked team in the country. Still something to prove going into a rivalry game here against the Florida Gators. What will you be watching leading up to this game here in Jacksonville?
Oh, man, there's a couple things. For starters is, this is a rivalry. And it's a game that we really want to go watch some point. And I think we're kind of a little bit more reserved from it like now. Just like CBS is, just like ESPN. This isn't the marquee game that it has been in years past. So, how far apart, how far away are we? Because when I look at the Georgia Bulldogs, they, short of the Missouri game, there's not been a real test for them. And do they show the country that they are undoubtedly the best team in the country? And I'm not saying that they can steamroll the Florida Gators, but if they do, Mike, if they can come out and just put them away like they have the Auburn, or Oregon Ducks or Auburn University, I think after that, then we can kind of crown them as the one, because nobody has been talking about Georgia because they've just not played anybody really. And I think Florida is a true test to how talented Georgia Bulldogs really are. So if they could come out and steamroll them and just back-to-back games like this, I think then we can kind of put it away. Like Tennessee's really got their hands full when they get down there to Athens.
Well, we're going to get to Billy Napier's comments here in a second, Shane, but I picked these specifically. I hope everybody can hear these clips because they're so low. But, the questions being posed down there in Gainesville, the talent gap is massive. Your defense is historically bad. How important is this game to the fan base? So on and on and on. I mean, it just seems like such a mismatch. How does that not leak into the locker room there in Athens to where, how seriously do they take the Florida Gators, Shane? Because I think that's the only shot Florida's really got is, obviously Anthony Richardson has to go off, but Georgia also maybe already eyeing that Tennessee game. Mm-hmm. Do you think there's a chance that happens, or are you not thinking that could happen due to the fact that this is the biggest rivalry on Georgia's schedule?
Well, I mean, it's big for the fans, and that's the thing. It's a party. It truly is. And I did a history lesson on this a few years back. It is an absolute blast down there if you're a fan of Florida or Georgia, regardless of the outcome. Yeah. It's just fun to be with. And it carries over into the stadium when it's a 50-50 game. It's not really home field advantage, even though it's in Florida, and Kirby doesn't like that. I think the fact of the matter is this is a game that has a lot of history. And I think that's kind of what you hear it with the media, you hear it with the coaches here. They know how important that rivalry is, but there's a lot of kids in that locker room that don't. And sometimes, they just see it as, oh shit, we're going against the number one team in the country. No, this is a game. If you look at the history that, there's been surprises in this matchup. There has been, some games that you thought Florida was going to win and then Georgia walks away the victory or vice versa. So I think that's kind of what Napier's getting at here is like, hey, this is an important game. We're going to be fired up. We're going to be pumped up and ready to do it. Now, Kirby, he comes out and does the old damn Nick Saban, oh, Florida's the best team ever and blah, blah, blah. So get ready for that one, lulling you to sleep. But don't think that when the doors are shut, Kirby ain't yelling at his team saying, we got to go out here and beat the shit out of these guys, and this is why.
Now, how about this, though, Shane? Something that has kind of plagued Georgia with A.D. Mitchell out is just the lack of explosiveness from the offense, particularly down the field. Is this Florida team a team that you think can take advantage of that? Or do you think this is such a lopsided affair that, it won't be till Tennessee, it won't be till Mississippi State, it won't be till Kentucky that Georgia faces teams that really make Georgia pay for maybe not having the best or most explosive passing attack.
Yeah, I think this is a big week for Kirby, because even regardless of the talent gap that you and others refer to, I think this is a Georgia schedule that gets a little tougher in November. So I think you've got to ramp up play. You cannot. We saw this with Ole Miss. I felt like in LSU, that they just came in, with the same recipe, and you'd come out with the same victory. And Georgia needs to mix things up. They need to get a little bit more aggressive in offense, because there are some teams that that's going to require you to put some points on the board. And I saw a little bit of that with Auburn. Obviously they didn't have to do it long because that game got carried away there, but I think this is another opportunity for this offense, especially to identify some more playmakers, and because in November there's going to be some games when others are going to have to step up. It cannot be the tight end show. We're going to have some receivers stretching the field. We're going to have a little bit more two-dimensional play so that these running lanes open up. So that's what it's about, and that's why I think this week is important. Not only are we getting a true pulse of how good Georgia is, but it's a preview to how good they're going to be the rest of the season.
A little bit more on the injuries, just the effect of Jalen not being out there. Obviously, we know he's an exceptional player, and his injury. Obviously, he had the knee right after he had the ankle. Is the knee the issue 100% at this point? And kind of on that note as well, AD, I never really saw what happened to him in that game, but it didn't seem like it was so bad, but it's lingered a long time.
AD's is a high ankle sprain, and high ankle sprains, when you talk to everybody across the NFL and across college football, it's hard to pinpoint a measurement. The first thing you look for is, do they need to do the repair? Do they need the tightrope and things like Arian did? His was not that kind of injury, but it is lingering. It's a pain in the butt. So he's battling to come back and doing everything we ask. In terms of Jalen's, it's the knee right now. It's MCL, but degree of that, severity of that, just depends on conditioning level, how fast he can get back. He's working to get back, and we're hopeful to get both of them back.
Yeah, I was going to ask about Jalen as well. In terms of what aspect of his game is most missing from the defense, when you don't have a guy out there like him that seems to be a difference maker, where do you see that when you watch film and watch your defense perform?
I don't understand what you're asking. Well, what do we miss about him?
Yeah.
He's a really good football player. I mean, y'all seen the plays he's made over his time here. He has not been healthy since the very first play of the season. The very first play of the season against Oregon is when the ankle injury occurred. Now, he continued to play through that ankle injury. Some of that I think was on adrenaline, but the ankle bothered him from that point forward, and then when he injured the knee. And the knee's kind of bothered him since then. It's not a combination of, because he feels really good about his ankle right now. It's more to do with his knee. It just so happened that right when he got back from the ankle, he got the knee. And, he's a phenomenal player. I think you can look at the history there and see, and how does it affect you? It affects your depth more than anything. But it's not like he's a one-trick pony. I mean, he can really pass rush good. He can really play the run. He's disruptive. So he's not it affects just our pass rush. No, it affects everything, because he's a really phenomenal player, and you'd like to have him out there.
Kirby, there's analytics I won't bore you with that say that basically this offense has been better with AD on the field than not. Have you all found that, and what makes him the difference maker, even if he isn't the one that's being targeted?
Well, AD is a really good wideout. He has twitch. He has explosive quickness. When you watch just across the country and you watch all these teams play, there's dynamic receivers. I think AD's a dynamic receiver. He's hard to cover one-on-one. I mean, I get to see him, every day at practice when he's been healthy, and that you've got a guy that can go compete, do some things. He's got toughness. He's got quicks. But to say it's been substantially different with him in or out, I don't know what the analytics say, and it's hard hard to figure that because so much of that's based on what personnel grouping we're in, how the defense is playing us. Are they off, are they soft, are they cover two, are they split safety, are they middle field closed? There's a lot of things that go into that. So I know that we're a better football team with AD healthy, 100%. But we're trying to get him back as fast as we can.
Kirby, getting ready to face Anthony Richardson, just how much have you seen from him getting ready for this game, particularly compared to last year when he was sort of thrown in the mix?
No, he's grown a lot, and he's gotten considerably better to me during this season. Like from the start of the season, game one, you watch every game in sequence and you say, man, this guy is growing and getting better, and they don't just limit things for him. Like they put a lot of shift motion, they put a lot of things on top of him to handle, and he manages those well. The toughest thing dealing with Anthony Richardson is how you affect him, because you got to be careful. Some of the runs he's had have been better than backs have across the country, and he's had 60 and 70-yard runs, and he can take off at any point in time, and you don't know who's going to have him or who can get him down. He's got elite arm talent in terms of strength. They clean things up for him on a lot of reads, and he does a really nice job. So I give them a lot of credit, Billy a lot of credit for the development, what he's done from the start of the season to now, and being successful both with his legs and his arm.
Now, flipping over to the other side, Shade, Florida, certainly Billy Napier and company, you got to think he's under no pressure. I mean, the guy's in year one here, and it's not like his team's looked horrible by any means. The defense, maybe you could say, has looked horrible at times, and going up against the number one team in the country is certainly not going to help that. But do you think he needs to prove something here to the fan base and just his play, just everybody out there in the SEC that, hey, Florida, I don't care what they're saying about Kirby and company and all the talent and the number one rankings and all these future NFL stars they got littered all over their roster. We are not going to back down. We are going to fight them. And, it may take a heroic performance by Anthony Richardson. It's probably going to take some trick plays or, some fake punts, some onside kicks, they're going to have to come up with something to keep us a competitive game. Does Florida and Billy Napier go into this game needing to prove something, or do you think even a loss, everyone's expecting it, and then they can maybe get that momentum with games like South Carolina, Florida State, Texas A&M, even on the road? Do you think they could still pick up good momentum even if they lose this game? Is I guess is what I'm asking you.
Yeah, and again, I hate the word. It's like, you're not looking for, what is it called? We say it sometimes.
Moral victory?
I don't even like saying the word, but you don't want to lose by more than 2 touchdowns,
right?
By your rivalry. I mean, when Billy took this job, they sat in that office and they probably said, hey, by year 2 or 3, we need to start winning this game again. Mm-hmm. And but I don't think year 1 there was that type of expectations. And, because let's face it, Georgia is a tough program. And but when you look at the Florida Gators, I think, like you said, that lack of pressure. There was pressure last week. Everybody expected them to win at the LSU if you were down there in that camp. And LSU camp thought they were expected to win. This one, it's not that way. It's kind of like the Tennessee game. And I felt like when those expectations were lifted, sometimes that's the best football that Anthony Richardson played. Nobody expected him to beat Utah. Nobody expected him to beat Tennessee. Well, lo and behold, those are the 2 best games Anthony Richardson had this season. So right. I think there's something to say about that. And I'm not putting Georgia on a upset alert or anything like that. But I mean, there is, it's a small season so far, and that's what we've seen so far. So if they can put together a couple of outstanding drives or some, just get some damn playmakers, then who knows? Florida may make a game out of this after all. Shit, I got to stop drinking so early. Man, I had 2 before I came on here. We went to dinner, and I was like, I drank me a couple of them, what they call Modelo's. Never had them.
Oh yeah.
Man. So we went to our Mexican restaurant over there at El Chorritos. Not a sponsor of the show, but they should be, because it's fantastic if you're ever in Morristown. And I had a couple of them, and I was like, I shouldn't, because we're going to have one at the pod. It's getting kind of late and stuff. But sorry, I'm a little tipsy here. I didn't drive home. Let's just say that. That Modelo was hitting right with that chips and salsa.
Is it shocking where it's at? I know we've hammered the defense a little bit, but is it shocking where it's at? It's historically got a chance to be historically bad here, given that there seems to be some talent. It's not like this is devoid of talent. There's some NFL guys on that side of the ball.
Yeah, no, I think statistically, there are a lot of areas where we need to, improve. I mean, I don't know what you want me to answer to that, but we're right in the middle of it. There's nobody that's ignoring the problem. I think we got a group of people that really care about doing their job better, and that's what they're going to try to do.
This one being, as you said, number one team, top ranked. I mean, this team's hauling in, 5 stars, 5, 6 a year.
Right.
The talent's immense. Do you kind of see the gap at that point? It's like, okay, this is where we got to get to.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all understand that, right? I mean, I think there's work to be done in a lot of different areas, when you're trying to put together a football team. But personnel's part of that, right? I think we all understand the value of acquiring really good players, right? So, and then having a culture and a development plan once they do arrive, right? There's lots of things that contribute to this game. So there's no question the evaluation and the recruitment process is pretty well documented. Not only Georgia, but a lot of teams, right, have done a really good job in those areas. So, and it pays off. We all understand that.
Number one team in the country again, as was before mentioned, a rivalry game. How much do you present this as opportunity, and do you think that can maybe spill over from a motivational standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody that's walking the halls in this building, most everybody understands the things that come with this game. I grew up in the state of Georgia, grew up watching this game. Our players are well aware, right? We've got a good percentage, that have played in this game, and we got another percentage that grew up watching the game, right? So we all understand the history and tradition behind this game.
That's a perfect time, Shane, to transition to your Vols here. They're wearing the black uniforms as a blackout for the Kentucky game coming to town. This is going to be a big, big matchup. Tennessee also. You don't want to put Georgia on upset alert. I don't know. Maybe that's the first question I should ask you. Are you putting Tennessee on upset alert? Kentucky fighting for their lives. Hated rival. They think they're on the same level as Tennessee. And in recent years, they've kind of proven they are different. Maybe a different story this year. You putting them Vols on upset alert, Shane?
I am. I truly am. This is Kentucky hates Tennessee. They absolutely hate them in every sport to their core. And we hate Kentucky. But sometimes when you have this success that we've had, and we've beat Alabama, and we've beat so many top 25 teams. I saw it online. Somebody says, why am I, this is the least worried I felt about a top 25 team or something like that. And I'm just paraphrasing, but I think sometimes you can overlook we know that the SEC championship is going to come down to these next two games, Kentucky and Georgia. But majority of the Tennessee fans does not think that Kentucky is part of that mixture. It's just a simple victory. Mm-hmm. But what concerns me is I think that this is the most healthy, well-balanced, best that Kentucky has played this entire season. If you think about starting out with Rodriguez, not in there. Will Rogers banged up during the Ole Miss game. I feel like they finally got all their toys back, and this is the most dangerous that Kentucky. And there is no pressure on the Wildcats to come down here in Knoxville and just make a mess. And that's what concerns me, because there will be nothing held back during this game. It will be physical. It'll be loud. It'll be exciting. But Kentucky is coming down here to mess up the party. That's exact. I mean, this is a you talk about an arrow or a target on your back. Tennessee Volunteers got it right now, and that should always scare you in a rivalry game.
Right, and Kentucky, they've won on the road, Shane. They've won at a hostile Swamp when that place was rocking, when Florida was undefeated, I think they were top 15 in the country. You know, they have experienced that. Now, maybe Neyland Stadium a little bit more hostile than the Swamp. I don't know. I'm sure I'm upsetting people just by suggesting that. But, you know, quite a toss-up there. But how about for Tennessee's sake, Shane? I mean, at some point, do you expect all the hype, all the excitement around this season, do they ever get caught up in it? Or, again, looking ahead to Georgia perhaps. Stephen, I almost fell out of my chair, Shane, when Stephen wanted to, he said, hey, can we talk about the November 5th games? And I was like, what? He's overlooking these games. I mean, even a reserve guy like Stephen Laskin it wants to talk about it. I mean, any chance Tennessee's caught looking ahead?
I think there's a chance, but one thing that I really like about what this team and staff has done is they find little quirky ways to get the fan base pumped up, even over trivial games that shouldn't be even close. You know, I think about the LSU. We break out the gray uniforms. That may not seem like a lot to you, but it pumped up a lot of fans, and it got these players excited. You know, trying on some new uniforms, and then you see it here with Kentucky. You know, this isn't just another game. We're all wearing black uniforms. You know, that's something that's not been done since I think South Carolina, and that was a hell of a game. You remember that one? Hardesty had that damn run. Jeez.
Oh, no. I was thinking. I think it was last year, Shane, when it was 28-0 in the first quarter. They were wearing black.
Oh, were we?
I'm pretty sure.
Wait, which one was this?
Last season,
South Carolina.
Yeah, when with the famous Beamer cheering on the sidelines. The score was like 38-7.
Damn, did we? All I think about is that Hardesty run. That's when I think of Tennessee with the
that was
black
when
jersey.
Lane Kiffin was the coach.
Hell, I don't know. I've drank since then, Mike, but I'm not good on the spot picking out years and stuff. But I will say this. Again, back to your question, you know, little things like that pumps up your locker room and gets you excited. These kids are pumped up. Yeah. There's been leaked photos of the helmets all week long, you know. So that again, you're not going to get a team that's going to come out unprepared, or it's just, I don't know. I don't know if it's in their DNA. There hasn't been that letdown. I felt like the closest thing to a letdown was the Pittsburgh game, and the fact that it got so damn close and it went to overtime. I think it was the wake-up call they needed to realize that you can't come into these games unprepared. You come unprepared, you're gonna get smacked in the mouth. So, I think that's just little things like that is what's helped University of Tennessee this year.
Coach, you get a team full of guys that have never been in this position before. All the hype, you know, the outside noise, as you like to call it. Have you been surprised at their ability to stay focused, to kind of have blinders on?
Up until this point, absolutely. We're still in the beginning stages of this journey, really the halfway point. And, you know, for us, the preparation, being real with each other, competing every day is going to be critical. It's critical today, this morning, critical tomorrow when we get back out on the grass. So far, these guys have handled it the right way. There's still things that, you know, we pointed out today, not just on the field performance, but in our preparation that can be better. And, you know, accountability to one another in this program is going to be important as we keep going.
In that same tone, do you think that because your leaders, most of your leaders on this team are kind of steady Eddie, even keel, never too high, never too low, that allows them to kind of keep that same focus and not ride the wave of stuff? And then can you talk about Chris Rodriguez and what he does well?
Well, I just think, you know, the leadership from our football team, you know, and the guys that we have that have grown, you know, since we've gotten here over the last 20 months, you know, their ability to put in work, see that work pays off, the ability to reset is an area of, you know, when we got here, an area that we had to grow in, one that we have grown in. The leadership, you guys have heard me say this a bunch, just that the leadership within your locker room is really, really important. And for those guys to grab a hold, not be satisfied with where we are, what we've done, but in sports, it's all about your next performance. That determines, who you are and what you're about. And we're excited for this one on Saturday.
How much confidence do you think the offensive line has gotten out of your all's ability to pick up those 3rd and 1s and 4th and 2s and when y'all went to that bunch set and kind of, play behind your pads and be able to get downhill and make some plays? It feels like y'all have had so much success with that this year.
Yeah, we have been successful. You don't ever take that for granted here as we continue on the back half of the season. But it's a sense of pride for those guys. They want to be able to run the football, obviously. A majority of the time that's what you end up doing in those situations. And you got to create movement and win on single blocks, but double teams too. And those guys have been really good in that situation here.
Josh, what's Kentucky do defensively that can create some problems for your offense?
Yeah, they're really good. Top 15 defense, top 10 scoring, I think. They multiple in their fronts, multiple in their coverages. For all those reasons, you got to have great communication in your pass protection in your run game. And, as a quarterback, you got to do a great job of seeing rotations. We got to do a great job of winning up front and then go on the outside and win some one-on-ones too. And it'll be important throughout the course of the game.
Now, how about the flip side, Shane? Because this is, we've talked about it where, Josh Heupel needed to keep Florida in Billy Napier in year one. They had to, swing that one. That was very important. Now, obviously, Josh Heupel's program beat Mark Stoops in Kentucky last season. That's a bad look for Kentucky, particularly in Lexington. Now, if Tennessee and Josh Heupel does the same thing and scores a bunch of points and they're 2-0 against, the best Kentucky team Mark Stoops has ever assembled potentially, when we're talking overall roster, I mean, then it's just going to be the narrative all over again. Like Kentucky is in the basement, and that's where they're going to stay because Tennessee's back and yada yada yada. You're going to hear all that. And if you look all over Kentucky's roster, Shane, it's loaded. They have done a really good job the past 3 cycles of reaching into the state of Tennessee and grabbing players. And there's many to pick from, but one that really stands out to me right now, Shane, is Barrion Brown, the true freshman. I mean, he's one of the most explosive players, not only in the SEC, but explosive true freshman in the country. They expect to continue to be able to recruit Tennessee, and particularly Middle Tennessee. But if they're out here losing to Tennessee every year, I don't know how realistic that is. So I think this game obviously means a ton to Big Blue Nation, but I think it means a ton to a lot of these players that are from the state of Tennessee that maybe got overlooked, or maybe I don't know why they ended up. Maybe they just like Kentucky better. I don't know. But to those players, this game's going to mean a hell of a lot. And I think Mark Stoops and company has so much on the line where they need to prove that they are Tennessee's equal in this matchup. And I think that means that we're going to be in for a dogfight here on Saturday night.
I think it's going to be a hell of a game, brother. I really do. And I keep thinking in my mind how I imagine this thing playing out. And, if I'm Coach Stoops, I want to come out and give Tennessee a heavy dose of Rodriguez. I think that's what you got to do. You got to keep the chains moving. You got to keep the ball out of Hooker's hands and slow this game down a little bit. So that's what but they've got the formula for that. But I really think this game is going to come down to the offensive line. If Kentucky can keep Will Levis vertical, if he, that in which they've really struggled at this season, Mike.
Yeah.
Tennessee, one of the things they don't talk enough about is the constant, unrelentless pressure that they love to send. They love to gamble on both sides of the ball. Banks is going to have these guys pinning their ears back, and they see the same tape we've watched. This is a quarterback that Tennessee really could get back there and hurt. So
yeah.
How do they answer? And are they able to keep, like I said, Will Levis off the field? That's the key for me. It's just keeping him clean. And if they can do that and establish the run, man, and this defense tighten up and get some 3 and outs. That's what's scary is we've been so good at getting that first down. They say, Tennessee always says the hardest part is getting that first down. But once you get the ball going, then everything's. But if Kentucky can force some 3 and outs, then and then they hold on the ball for 4 or 5 minutes, that's the recipe for beating Tennessee Vols. So to think that it can't happen, you're crazy. This team can do it, man. They've got talent, and that's why it's like I know. I'm confident that the Vols. I'm going to go ahead. Everybody knows my damn pick. There's no acting like I got to hide it for a few more days. I'm confident the Vols are going to win. But then there's that little devil on my shoulder saying, but how confident do you want to? I don't want to bet everybody Bourbon, because it's an expensive little hobby, because it's one thing for you, one person, one individual in Kentucky to send me a bottle of bourbon, but if I lose and I send 8 bottles of whiskey, that's a little dent in my wallet. So I'm still a little reserved, pun intended, on this thing,
Last week, DeAndre told us that Ole Miss and Tennessee, the tempo doesn't really even compare. Tennessee's that much faster. What does that Ole Miss game give your defense, though, at least some preparation?
Well, it definitely gave us some prep, and we had to work on some of that even in camp and just getting our feet up underneath us and try to work at that tempo because it's almost impossible for your scout team to simulate anything as fast as they do or execute like they do. So we did last week, and we'll continue to do it some this week with good against good, with our offense giving us some fastball and just get our cleats in the ground, execute calls, the urgency of communicating and getting lined up and just playing ball. We got to continue to work different ways to try to simulate that kind of speed.
Mark, a lot is made about Tennessee's wide receivers, how wide they line up, so close to the boundary. What kind of problems does that present for a secondary?
It does. It kind of forces your hands, whether you're in a split safety look or a one high look, so they know whether you're in two safeties or one. And it also creates a lot of space for them, which is obviously what they like, and gives them big windows. With some receivers that could really run, and a quarterback that's playing at the level he is and how accurate he is, it gives him a lot of space.
Does the fact can't play too much off of emotion, but do you see guys get up a little more when it is the number 3 team in the country and kind of an SEC rivalry?
Well, you better. I think it's human nature when you're playing a team that's playing this well. You better play at a high clip, or you'll get embarrassed, and they could play very, very fast. They're scoring points on everybody, and it's you're playing the number 1 offense in the country. You better be locked in and be ready to play at a high level.
What is it about Tennessee's wide receiver core that causes so much chaos in secondaries? Obviously, they had some explosive plays last time they came here. Obviously, they did it against Alabama, UT Martin. What is it that they do that puts so much stress on secondaries?
Yeah, they have 21 plays of 40 yards or more this year, so that's pretty explosive. They have 49 plays of 20 or more, so they're very good. I think the scheme. Obviously, they have a very good scheme that's unique to them, and with the splits that they have in the space. And they're doing a really nice job of subtle change-ups off their routes. So you might be anticipating one thing, but with the space that they have, they are creating some deep shots in the way Hendren is throwing the deep ball. Very efficient. He's very, very accurate on the deep pass.
Well, speaking of a fan base that is hesitant, to say the least, Shane, let's kick it on down to College Station where, man, no need to, keep kicking Jimbo while he's down. We've done that enough. But adding to this layer of just a horrible season, Shane, 3 offensive linemen out for the season. Starting center, Bryce Foster. Starting guard, Ika Agabanin. sure I butchered that. He's out for the year. Backup offensive lineman Jordan Moku, he's out for the year. And then we got suspended players, Shane, 5-star defensive back Denver Harris, 5-star receiver Chris Marshall, and offensive lineman P.J. Williams, all suspended. I mean, we're in real danger, Shane, of hell, the wheels may have already fallen off, but if they ain't a home game against Ole Miss, this is a dangerous spot for Texas A&M, and we may not have even gotten to the most ugly result of the season. Don't you think?
I'm telling you. You think the wheels are off in South Carolina. I mean, that was this program just finds ways to hit lows. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah.
You keep saying, well, I can't get worse than App State, and then it's 4 losses later, we're like, golly, and now you got half your team out through injuries or getting high. So did they prove that it was marijuana? Is that what it was for?
I just heard incident in the locker room is what is officially being reported by legitimate sources, but they're not saying what that means.
I want to ask you, Mike, do you think this is culture? I know that gets thrown around a lot, but it really feels like there is no control of this locker room. We saw the videos coming out earlier this season with the driving fast in the parking garage. Now we got players getting kicked off after a game for, I've heard drug use. I don't know if that's the case, but it just seems like, man, there is kind of a little bit of lost control here. Do you feel that?
Well, again, we got to credit our buddy Stephen Lassage, Shane. He came on here a couple weeks ago and said, I can't believe so many people overlook what happened at Florida State. And that's exactly what happened at Florida State under Jimbo. Not only did the team go under, they couldn't find quarterbacks, offensive line struggled year in, year out, but the culture was a disaster. And they're multiple coaches removed, and they're just now fixing the culture. Now, it's happening again. And, yeah, I think you're 100% right. I mean, this is not the only thing, Shane. I mean, I hear it's a divided locker room down there. We've seen time and time again. I don't know why in the hell they do this. They got to stop doing this, Shane. But they are traveling to away games on Thursdays. So they're in town Thursday. They're in town all day Friday. And then, of course, the game on Saturday. And you've seen incidents of alleged incidents of players having women into the hotel. I've seen others like basically putting it out on social media. Here's our hotel. They're trying to get more ladies to come. And again, like, I'm not saying that's Jimbo's fault, but what are they supposed to do for 24 hours in a hotel? I mean, this is why you don't have a team come out here days early. But yeah, this is a culture issue. This is, they're in such a weird place because Jimbo's out here saying, well, it's hard with this many young players, but at the same time, this is not going to be a youth movement. What about the older players? Like, this feels like two different teams going head to head, and the freshmen keep making it more difficult on the team, and then the more senior players are not getting the job done. So, I mean, this is like a complete disaster, I would think, for Jimbo and company.
Yeah, I don't know where they go from here. And again, I didn't think about the Florida State, but you make some. I mean, look at Jameis Winston, for crying out loud. I mean, I don't know where they go. I don't know what they do here, but there has to be some resolve, man. There has to be maybe some sort of tightening up and camp like. I remember they used to have rules, and I don't know if they're doing it now, but when you get these kids in the room at curfew, then they'd go around, they'd put that damn tape on their door and have a hall monitor and keep it. I mean, if that's what you got to do.
Right.
But, and then you want to blame them as a fan. You're like, I can't believe they're messing up and blah, blah, blah. But put yourself in their shoes. What were you doing at 19, 20 years old? And on top of that, I didn't have $400,000 or $500,000 in my account from NIL deals. Not saying that's how much they have, but they have a lot more money than I did going to college, and so I can't imagine. There's got to be an answer because other schools are doing it. You're not hearing Alabama. You're not hearing this from Georgia. They're they're not hearing this at other schools. Just Texas A&M. I mean, we're on the verge of a 30 for 30 on ESPN talking about the greatest class that never was.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, who knows how many these guys are going to stay there. I mean, I've even heard that from I've heard Billy Lucci say it, that there's a real chance some of these players hit the portal if things continue to trend the way they are trending. And hell, Jimbo's being asked about it. When he's being asked about it in these press conferences, they're not asking that out of just pure coincidence. They're asking because they're hearing the same things everybody else is hearing and more in depth. So yeah, this is a real issue they got on their hands, and man, it's a messy situation. And the sad part, Shane, I don't think that there's anything they can do to fix it this season. I mean, they just got blow it up during the offseason. They have got to find them a quarterback. Maybe it's Connor Wigman, but here Jimbo's saying it ain't going to be a youth movement. I don't know how much confidence I got that they're going to put Wigman out there to see what he's got. But yeah, they have got to fix this.
He comes out and he starts talking recruiting, and he's like, maybe kids don't want to go to school that's winning all the time. It's like, is this your recruiting pitch right now? Come to Texas A&M so you could play sooner, because we ain't winning games down here. I mean, golly.
Terrible.
Jimbo, how much harder or how much more difficult does it make it for this offense to execute when you've got young players like you do? I mean,
any offense. I don't care if I'm experienced. There's nothing that substitutes for experience. And like you say, 4 on, 5 off up front, or out of here, and those inches matter. And then when you're playing good teams, and I always say this, you fight for the inches. The inches make the difference, and that's the detail and the precision in which you do something with it, from the hand to a foot to everything. And it matters, and you got to keep getting them looks and things that they understand totally. But at the end of the day, that's the guys you have, and they're very good players. So we have to just we can get them there.
Second row to the right, Olin, and then Travis.
Jimbo, what do you have to do to make sure your guys stay invested in this season? You see in college football, I saw like at SMU, a bunch of players decided just to redshirt.
Yeah, I'd heard about that. I didn't know, but I don't see that out of our guys. And I see our guys the way they practice and educate them again. Stay communicative with them, keep a relationship with them, and educate them what they're doing. And like I say, you're playing everything you do. You're putting on film. There's a resume there. You're building. And today's time, that matters. That's the I and win. Your individual responsibility to be the best you can be. So our team can win, and I can have a future, and that's what you tell them on. And I don't see guys wanting to bail. I don't see guys wanting to do that. And guys are continue to practice hard and play hard, and that luckily, knock on wood, hasn't been an issue with us.
Do you think you're going to have to recruit guys on your team to keep them out of transfer portal and things like that?
I think you have to do that. I don't care if you win 11 games, you win 0 games. That's the nature of the beast right now in today's football. That's the inclination of anything. If a guy didn't play enough or a guy didn't get there, you saw guys. Last year you've seen guys right now transfer that have had great success places, had great teams, done things. That's going to be new normal for everything.
Hey, Coach, with Connor at quarterback, and I guess just generally speaking across the board, how do you balance for the rest of the year trying to win the rest of these games with the best units you can on the field, and also trying to potentially see what you have for years to come with some of these guys?
Well, no, you got to play for the moment, because I'm going to say you play for the future, but what do you tell that senior? What do you tell that junior is going out? They want to win now, and you do that. You make decisions based on the now, and you play your guys. If they're good enough to play, and if they can play in the future, and you feel they're good enough to play now, you play them. And we'll play a lot of guys, which we have. But we got to do what we have to do each week to play put the best team on the field and compete.
Coach, how would you think you would evaluate the job that y'all have done as a staff coaching this football team this year?
Well, obviously not what we need to be doing. We haven't reached a standard in which we want to reach, and which is not to lose any games. We have to coach better and do a better job putting our guys in position and get them to understand, and from education to techniques to doing the things we do. And again, we're not happy where we're at in any way, shape, or form.
Is there anything that you can think of that, looking back, that you wish you had done differently?
No, just you got to get guys across the board, and there's a system. And listen, you look at things you do in camp, you evaluate, you change every year things you do, what you do based off your teams, and you got to get education. Staying healthy was one. If you keep the same guys and keep continuity and some of that stuff. But as far as coaching, and then there's always hindsight. You go back and say, well, just a little bit here or there. But as far as what we do schematically, we're there. We just got to get them to understand it, and do a better job explaining it to them. Like I say, you don't A guy doesn't explain something, you got to re-explain it. You got to coach it. You got to put him in position. You got to get him to walk through it. You got to get him to do it, and then get confidence in it and believe in it. And that's what coaching is.
Coach will go to the left
It's
side,
education.
fourth row.
Hey, Coach. With 4 losses so far, it's been pretty disappointing. What's your message to recruits about the future of the program?
Look at what we're doing and the guys that happen. And, also, you look at that in bad, they see opportunities. Everybody says, I go somewhere that's winning all the time. I may not play for a while. You know what I'm saying? But no, we've got good young players. Look at the young players team. Look at the young talent we have. Look at the guys making a lot of the plays, and they see it. We got a good nucleus of what we're doing, and that we're only a playoff on those games. And you sell that, and you see it, and be truthful about it. There's no in recruiting. The key to recruiting, there's no pitch. When you're a good recruiter, you tell the truth. Recruiting is about one thing: truth and relationships. You can draw it up 100 ways, but it's silly. There is no pitch. There is no magical formula. There is no pixie dust. You build a relationship through truth and trust, and be honest with them about where you see them and what they do, and you don't base everything off 1 year either. You don't base things off history, what people have done, where they've been, what's happened, schools have happened, players, and see the future of what a program is. But it's based off truth and trust, it's what you tell them.
Well, how about the other side, Shane? Ole Miss just suffered their first loss.
Yeah.
And another great point by Steven on the last episode. Go back and check it out if you missed it. But this is the 8 games in a row, 8 consecutive games, only team in the SEC with that many games in a row. I didn't want to stop him when he made that point, Shane, but I was like, well, they got the first month off, basically. It was because of who they played, so maybe not quite as daunting, but these players are tired. They need a break. Zach Evans banged up. We don't know if he's going to play, and kind of the way I look at it, Shane, if he misses this game, then he'll have 3 weeks to prepare for Alabama.
Yeah.
So maybe you don't even want Zach Evans as much as you do want him. You'd rather him be 100% or as close to it for Alabama. So that's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. But there's also a real danger here, Shane, of Ole Miss. Their season kind of going off the rails here and losing to a very talented A&M team that if they put all the pieces together, certainly can beat Ole Miss at home. But there's pressure, I think, on Ole Miss to win this game, to keep their dream season alive, don't you think?
Yeah, and I will tell you, let me pull something up here real quick, Mike. Let me just, so I don't say something stupid, we're probably too late for that. But, Ole Miss, and when I think of Lane Kiffin, man, I think of a very prideful coach, not happy with results in LSU. I think he makes this a statement game, brother. Here you're hearing all this bad news. I don't know what the over-under is. I don't know if it's moved around or anything like that. But, I may just, after we get done here, put a whole bunch of money on them Ole Miss Rebels because I feel like you've got one team that's imploding. And you got another one that's looking for revenge, a bounce-back game. So, I don't know. If Evans is 80%, Lane Kiffin's rolling him out there, man. You can't afford not to have him because this is how you get your boys back on track. Lane's not thinking of Alabama. He's thinking about Texas A&M and probably upset they didn't offer him the job when they hired Jimbo. So this is just, again, what's the point? Is the point spread on here? Wait, I got it pulled up here.
I think it's Ole Miss -4.
Okay. Well, I got 2.5 here.
Okay.
Shit, Mike, I'm putting the mortgage on it. Don't tell my wife, but I'm putting the mortgage payment on this one. This is my lock, my wager. Have you ever got a wager this early, Mike?
No.
I'm feeling it, brother. Am I crazy or is this one of those games? Let me ask you: do you feel like this is one of those games that you can just kind of throw all the noise out? Do you feel that? Because the more I'm talking about, the less.
No, I don't think so. I don't think you can because we're a step away from all the dumpster fire tweets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just one bad thing after another with these suspensions, with the losing, with not knowing who your quarterback's going to be. We've seen A&M without Bryce Foster at center. It's a disaster on that offensive line. He's out for the year. So, yeah, this is a game legitimately, Shane, and I'm not even trolling. I could see Ole Miss winning by like 35 points. I truly could see that. But at the same time,
he will not stop. Lane will not stop. He will keep the foot on the gas. So
right.
That's the thing.
But the problem is Ole Miss defense is starting to crumble.
Yeah.
I mean, this is several weeks in a row they've been going in the wrong direction. Now Texas A&M, they struggle to score, so I don't even know how many points they could put up, but it's hard for me to see Ole Miss not giving up, 20 points. So as long as they can score 28 to 30 points, they should win this ball game.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Lane, you guys responded really well last season after losses. I think it was 3 in a row after the first one, 4 in a row after the second one. Is there something kind of to be said about resetting and recalibrating after a loss?
Yeah, I think I've said it, when you play, really talented players in programs, they will expose certain areas. And it's why, when you play one of them super early or open with them, you learn more about issues that you have. And sometimes they can be hidden until you go play, one of, like I said last week, like a program like the next 3, and I mean, they make recruiting rankings for a reason, and obviously those have a lot to do with winning and draft picks. And so when you play really good players, you've got to do things really well, or you can't get away with some things you can versus some of the personnel we played early in the year.
Told us Saturday you had a high level of concern with the defense after their performance, and you kind of sensed it after the way they struggled against Auburn. After watching 2 weeks of tape, what are you kind of seeing defensively? Is it a personnel, schematic? I mean, what do you feel like needs to kind of be adjusted there?
Well, we've got to tackle better. Certainly hasn't helped Cedric not being available at all 2 weeks ago and being very limited, and he tried to play but wasn't himself. And then when Troy, in both games, having to come out due to injuries, those are, 2 really significant players. So, but we've got to tackle better and limit explosive plays, which is what we had done really well early in the year. And, we showed them some film today just to make sure, like, hey, here's some out from 2 weeks ago, and how well in 3 weeks ago, Kentucky game, and how well that we played and the energy that we played with and gang tackling. So it's not like we got to come up with it out of nowhere. We've done it.
Now, final matchup here, Shane. Missouri going on the road at South Carolina. Missouri finally got a win in conference play. They got off the schneid there after 3 consecutive one-score losses, just heartbreaking defeat after heartbreaking defeat. Do you think they get confidence from beating Vanderbilt? Or, I mean, that was just so ugly in the second half. Now they're facing a South Carolina that's red hot, won 4 in a row. Are they going into a buzzsaw here, or do you think it's an opportunity for Missouri to pull a stunning upset? Because they've been known to do that under Drink.
I think this is momentum, and if you're looking at a game momentum, I'm South Carolina right now because I mean they're top 25. Think about that, brother. We're going into November, and the Gamecocks are a top 25 program.
Yeah.
How can you not be on cloud 9 right now? This team is fired up. You saw it. You keep seeing it every single week. They just find ways. Now it's not always pretty, but they're finding ways to win games. And Missouri. Don't get me wrong, Missouri is like a roller coaster a little bit, and I think this is one of the most underrated defenses in the country.
Right.
And I expect them to come full force this week, but which cook shows up? Which cook is in the kitchen? Is that a thing? So they should make that, because which cook shows up to do
that's
this?
His new NIL.
Is it? That's what I've got to see, man. Is who's running the show on that side of the ball?
Yeah.
Are we getting 2-minute offense right before the half, Cook? Or are we getting another interception and a blown read, Cook? So this is going to be a hell of a matchup, and it's like strength versus strength. What one team's good at, the other one's good at defending. So
right,
and it is a trophy. I found out, and of course I don't know if they were lying to me, but I think they called it the Governor's Cup or something. Is that true?
I think so, yeah, because it's the Columbia's. They're going head to head here, but it is pretty fascinating, Shane. I mean, I think a lot of people that don't follow these two that closely, when the line came out, I don't know if it's moved. I don't know if you got that information right in front of you, but Gamecocks favored at opening only by 4 points at home over Missouri, and I think
it's still 4 right now.
That's not always. Obviously, it's not a prediction of the score. We all know that, but it is interesting, Shane, because I think. You would think a lot of people would be betting South Carolina with the 4, But this is a sneaky, sneaky ball game, my friend. And Missouri, they won it last year. And I have to believe with Marcus Satterfield calling the plays. I like Missouri when they're on defense a hell of a lot more than I like South Carolina on offense right now.
Mike, this is the poor man's game of the week. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is like, don't get me wrong. We've got some great football coming on, but I think when we're at the end of the night and we're recapping these shows, we're watching this one extra hard because we couldn't believe how close it actually was. So this one could go either way. This is more Morristown Honda, I'll tell you right now. The more we talk about this game, the least confident I get on either side.
Yeah, and this may be one, Shane, where Missouri, you got to get it if you want to go to a bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
And for South Carolina, if you want to keep those dreams alive of going to like a New Year's Day bowl, you got to get this one. So there's a lot on the line for both these coaches, both these teams, really. You know what?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So let me ask you this, because just talking pressure, who's got the most pressure coming in this game? I mean, you finally got South Carolina top 25, 4 in a row. It feels like losing to Missouri would be a huge stab in the heart.
Yeah.
It would be just a total heartbreaker and letdown, especially with some of the tougher games they got around the corner.
Right.
But then on the flip side of the coin, you got Eli that, just got a SEC game victory, but again, almost squandered there at the end. Not that it was his fault, but it just feels like that's kind of been their theme, Hey, we were close, but we just at the end we let go of,
Right.
And so which coach has more pressure coming into this game, in your opinion?
I think it's clearly Shane Beamer and company.
Yeah.
Because of what you said there with getting the momentum, getting the ranking, another home game. These are the games you expect to win.
Mm-hmm.
But hell, you didn't win it last year, and I think Missouri clearly better on the defensive side of the ball. If things are clicking, they're better on offense. We just haven't seen that because of the offensive line struggles, because of the inconsistency at quarterback. And who knows, Shane, this may be a game where you break out Sam Horn after we saw Brady Cook struggle. And that is something Drake, he would not give up. Who's number 2? Well, you're going to have to wait to find out. So, that there's a little intrigue there as well. This could be certainly a Missouri coming out party. And again, look at that point spread. Vegas is letting you know this is going to be a very hot contested game. And them Gamecocks better not be looking ahead, because everybody and their mother that hates the Gamecocks, Shane, they're saying, well, hell, they're only 5-2 because of this ridiculous easy schedule. This is, they've got to prove those people wrong here on Saturday. You know what?
Shane, I know you've been part of a lot of teams that have been ranked a lot as an assistant. Does this feel any different at all because it's your first time as a head coach?
Yes. I'd love to give you the cool coach speak and tell you they're all the same. But no, when you're the head coach and you're ranked, it's certainly something we're proud of, but not satisfied with. But I look at it more as it's just the next step, and credit the players and the people in this program to be, 2 years ago at this time, a 2-win team that being ranked in the top 25 was the furthest thing from anybody's mind, to now, less than 2 years later, to be ranked in the top 25, to me is just a sign that and another statement that we're headed in the right direction, and a credit to the people in this program and how they've worked to get to this point as well. So, happy with where we are, but again, we've got a lot of football left this season and a lot of work to do, and we're nowhere near satisfied, and we shouldn't be.
Question along the ranking storyline. First time as a head coach going into a game week with a nationally ranked team, what is the more important message? Is it a cautionary tale of what happened, let's just say, the last time the Gamecocks were ranked didn't last very long, or what it will take to stay ranked and to climb up in the polls?
What it would take to stay and continue to climb, which means we're getting better as a football team. I mean, that wasn't our message this morning was nothing about staying ranked and not falling out of the polls. It was more what do we have to do to continue to get better as a football team, and starting this week against a team that certainly none of us were proud of that. None of us enjoyed that day in Columbia, Missouri last year, and that was a long bus ride back to St. Louis that night after the game because we couldn't fly out of Columbia after the game. So that game doesn't really have anything to do with this year's game, but we've got plenty of motivation to get better as a team and just continue to improve. And we were talking about that, Rick, after we lost to Georgia and we were 1-2. It was improve as a team and how much better can we get as this season goes on. It was the same thing after Kentucky, and it's the same thing right now. We've had 2 really big wins in a row, 4 straight, but we've got a lot of work to do and a lot to get better at, and that's our focus right now and nothing else.
Hey, Shane, how would you say the atmosphere at Williams-Brice compares to any other place that you've played or coached at?
I would say it's right at the top. I took all kinds of, stuff when I posted something on social media yesterday or about what I've said after the game to Cole Kubelik on the field after the game. But, I mean, it's true. That atmosphere Saturday night was unbelievable. I mean, Texas A&M was at 8 false starts? 7? 8? I mean, think about it, guys. Like 8 false starts that single-handedly were because of the crowd noise. It's unbelievable, and it's not unbelievable knowing our fans. It's right at the top, and trust me, I'm blessed. I've been around some to be able to be in some great environments as a GA at Tennessee, or coaching here before, or coaching at Virginia Tech, or out in Oklahoma, or at Georgia. I mean, those are all great atmospheres and environments. Mississippi State and Georgia Tech, certain games. But Saturday night in that stadium, our fans were a true weapon for us. And I said at the beginning of the season, it was already great, but with what our administration's done over there with the lights and the sound system and everything else, it's better than it's ever been. And that showed Saturday night in the stadium.
You're corrected.
You mentioned on Saturday that some of the hits Brady has taken. If you were to get in a situation where he has to miss a play or whatever, who's your next guy up at this point?
Yeah, it all depends on the timing and the situation of the game. We're actively working all of our quarterbacks in practice to see who can develop, and depending on the situation of the game, what the injury would be, it would determine who would be the next quarterback in. So in long and short, I'm not going to tell you. and rush the passer.
Luther Burden obviously brought a ton of skill. How have you seen him get better? Are there areas you've seen him really apply himself and improve?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for Luther is one, understanding that football and life is a process, and you're going to have to learn to eliminate the outside noise and clutter and expectations of people and focus on what you can control. And I think that has become a process for him of, hey, I can't worry about the expectations and the outside noise and all the things that are all the pressure to perform for others. I've got to continue to work on myself. And then I think the second, and this is really important, was the ability to get healthy so that he could really play back to his full potential. In college football, when you get nicked up and you're at 80% or 75% playing against great players, you don't look the same. You're just not the same. And so that bye week, he didn't even practice Sunday last week because we were still like, he was questionable all the way to Wednesday, just getting full speed. And I would still say he's probably at about 90%. But I think once he was able to get to that 90% and practice to, again, recreate the process, because we're not good enough. Nobody's, until you get to the NFL, are you ever going to be good enough to just show up and play? And that's really what we were having to do on that 3-game stretch after Auburn. I mean, we were having to barely get any practice Tuesday, barely get practice Wednesday, and then trying to show up and affect the game in a manner that everybody's putting pressure on you to do that. It's not realistic. And so I think him embracing that understanding, being able to practice last week, has led to the results. I saw a stat yesterday where he's one of a couple of players that have had multiple rushing, multiple passing, and a punt return for a touchdown. And I think he might be the only one in
college football, yeah. So, you know, all that other outside noise, you know, I don't know.
Oh, it's going to be good. Did you see that video we put out earlier? They were doing the sandstorm, and apparently it was like from a helicopter or a drone or something like that.
Yeah.
But that place was just electric, man. That Friday, it was like a club. You're out, and you know, you ever drive by and it's just banging, and the lights are going everywhere, and you're like, man, they're really having a good time in there. That's what it felt like when I saw that video. That place is going to be rocking. Another night game, which I mean, I'm getting a lot of. I don't know if you've noticed this, Mike. A lot of Georgia fans are pissed off. Mm-hmm. They're not getting any night games. They're like, we have lots. We can be fun, you know, but everybody's like, yeah, but you're just going to steamroll everybody, so we're just going to put you on at noon.
Yeah, I did see something, Shane. I think it's the first time since like '96 Nebraska that defending national champion has not had a night game.
That's crazy.
Until now with Georgia, which. Yeah,
technically, yeah, and it's not even at home, you know.
Right, exactly. Well, that's what I'm saying. A home night. I'm sorry. That's what I was talking about. A home night game for the home fans.
I hate it because night games are awesome. They really are, and it can be against bad teams. But playing something about that 7 o'clock, it's just fun. You enjoy your day on Saturday. Go down there, tailgate a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. Noons suck. Noons are terrible, and I hate it. And it's kind of funny because you just played yourself out. You know, you literally played yourself by just being too damn good. And if you sucked a little bit more, we probably would have had a 7 o'clock flex. But that. Again, Georgia, we haven't talked about you so long, so we're going to try and make the show about you guys. So
yep. Well, hey, buddy, I think that's a great place to end this one. Unless you got anything else before we hop off the line.
No, I think we nailed it, brother. No, probably it was the worst show I've ever done. Now that I think about it, you got a lot of extra editing to do tonight.
It's that damn El Chorrito. You're trying to get them as a sponsor.
It's that Modelo, man. I'm telling you, because you get in the moment. You know, you're chips and saucing it up, and then you're drinking a cold beer, and then you're still thirsty, and next thing you know, you're about 3 or 4 of those boys in, and man, it hit me tonight. So, but anyway, no, I've had an absolute great time with you, Mike. Looking forward to this weekend. It's just the more we talk about it, these games, they got so many storylines coming into it, and I think that's what's unique. Is, I mean, think about it. You got Texas A&M and Ole Miss. Ole Miss rebound, Lane Kiffin upset. You got Texas A&M just burning, man. I mean, people are jumping off the ship. Fans don't even want to go there anymore. No, I'm just kidding. That place is still going to be packed. They got good fans. But then you got the Columbia, the Governor's Cup. That game is so tight. Vegas, it's almost a pick 'em now.
Yeah.
Tennessee, Kentucky, or we're talking trap game. I mean, it's just we go around the Florida and the Florida Georgia. It's one of the biggest rivalries ever. So I just absolutely love it. Looking forward to it. I'm probably let the team off, and I'm sorry. I still love you guys, but I better get off here for.
There's probably Georgia and Florida fans already out there now in Jacksonville tailgating. You know what?
Absolutely, man. This is the week, man. Don't forget, throw the record books out. If you look at their Winsipedia, man, not one team has won more than 3 games in a row. And so I think, obviously, Georgia got them last year, but did you get the best Florida? And if you're going to get the best game, like if Billy Napier and company are going to pull together, because we polled the audience at the start of the season, who's your real rivalry? Mm-hmm. Florida hates Georgia the most.
Yep.
And I thought it would be Tennessee. No, it's the Gators and the Bulldogs. These guys absolutely hate each other. It's bragging rights all year long. So who knows, man? We may walk away with an emergency podcast on this thing.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, brother, I appreciate you. As always, appreciate each and every one of you for hanging out. We'll catch you on the next one.
All right. See you guys. Go Vols.